The diplomatic hall was silent, filled with a tension that could be cut with a knife. Junho Park stood at the center, his dark eyes scanning the room filled with alien representatives from across the galaxy. He was young, perhaps too young for the massive responsibility about to be thrust upon him. A holographic projection flickered to life, displaying an official royal seal from the Galactic Monarch's chamber. The seal represented an ancient tradition that few understood, the royal assignment of guardianship. In this case, the guardianship was for Princess Yuna, a name that sent whispers and nervous laughter through the assembled diplomats. Junho knew the stories. Princess Yuna was not like other royals. She had been passed from one guardian to another, each one returning her within weeks, sometimes days. Some claimed she was impossible to manage. Others suggested she was a strategic liability. The rumors ranged from her being too intelligent to being completely unpredictable. The lead ambassador, a tall, blue-skinned creature with multiple eyes, stepped forward. His voice was a mixture of mockery and pity. Junho Park, you are hereby assigned as the guardian of Princess Yuna. Do you accept this responsibility? The emphasis on responsibility was deliberate. Everyone in the room expected Junho to hesitate, to show fear, to potentially refuse. But Junho was different. He came from a long line of diplomatic workers who understood that challenges were opportunities in disguise. I accept, he said simply. A ripple of surprised murmurs spread through the chamber. No one had expected such a direct response. The blue-skinned ambassador's additional eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of complete shock. The royal documents materialized in front of Junho. They were complex, filled with ancient protocols and intricate legal language. But beneath the complexity, Junho saw something else, a challenge. A chance to prove that humanity was more than just a newcomer in the galactic diplomatic scene. Princess Yuna's file was unusual. Previous guardians had submitted reports filled with frustration. She refused standard educational programs. She challenged every existing technological and political framework. Her intellect was considered dangerous by some, revolutionary by others. The other diplomats were watching Junho carefully. They expected him to fail. Humans were still considered relatively new to galactic politics, and assigning a human to guard a royal princess seemed like an elaborate joke. Some alien races were barely hiding their laughter, but Junho understood something they did not. Challenges were not obstacles. They were opportunities for growth. His family had always taught him that diplomacy was about understanding, not just following rules. As the official ceremony concluded, Junho received a small data chip containing Princess Yuna's initial coordinates. She was currently stationed in a research facility on the outer rim of a distant star system. The location was intentionally remote, another test to see if he could manage the logistics of this assignment. The diplomatic hall slowly emptied. Alien representatives exchanged knowing glances, expecting to hear about Junho's inevitable failure within weeks. They saw a young human diplomat, seemingly unprepared for the complex task ahead. What they did not see was the quiet determination in Junho's eyes. He knew this assignment was more than just a diplomatic task. It was a chance to prove that humanity's approach to galactic interactions could be different, more flexible, more innovative. As he left the chamber, the weight of the assignment settled on his shoulders. Princess Yuna was waiting. The galaxy was watching, and Junho was ready to show them all that expectations could be shattered. The journey was about to begin. The research station hung like a metal spider in the darkness of space, its multiple arms stretching out against the backdrop of distant stars. Junho's small diplomatic transport vessel approached slowly, its navigation systems carefully aligning with the station's docking protocols. Inside the station, strange mechanical sounds echoed through empty corridors. Most research areas were quiet, with complex machines humming softly in the background. But one particular laboratory was different. Sounds of rapid typing, complex calculations, and occasional muttered frustrations emerged from its sealed entrance. When the airlock opened, Junho stepped inside wearing a standard diplomatic uniform. His hand carried a small identification chip, the official document that marked him as Princess Yuna's new guardian. He expected resistance, perhaps even a cold welcome. What he found was unexpected. The laboratory was not a typical royal workspace. Instead of ornate decorations or luxurious furniture, it was filled with complex holographic displays, multiple computer screens, and what seemed like half-completed technological prototypes. Wires, circuit boards, and strange mechanical components were scattered everywhere. In the center of this organized chaos sat Princess Yuna. She wasn't wearing royal robes or a traditional diplomatic outfit. Instead, she wore a simple gray jumpsuit with multiple technical patches. Her hair was pulled back and she wore specialized digital glasses that seemed to be displaying complex mathematical equations. She didn't even look up when Junho entered. "Know why you're here," she said without turning around. "Another guardian sent to manage me. Another attempt to control something they don't understand." Junho remained silent, observing. Most diplomats would have immediately started with formal introductions or official statements, but he had learned from his family that listening was often more important than speaking. Princess Yuna continued working, her fingers moving rapidly across holographic interfaces, complex star maps, technological schematics, and what appeared to be advanced navigation algorithms filled the screens around her. "Do you know why they keep sending new guardians?" she asked suddenly, still not turning to face him. "To manage your unique approach to royal responsibilities," Junho responded carefully. A short, sharp laugh escaped her. "Management. That's always the problem. They want to manage instead of understanding." She finally turned, and Junho saw something unexpected in her eyes, not rebellion or anger, but a deep, burning curiosity. Her gaze was intense, calculating, filled with an intelligence that seemed to process information faster than most beings could comprehend. "I'm developing a new interstellar navigation system," she stated. "One that could reduce travel time between distant star systems by 60%. But the Galactic Council doesn't want innovation. They want stability." Junho understood immediately. Princess Yuna wasn't a problem to be managed. She was a potential solution that no one had been willing to listen to. Their first conversation wasn't about protocols or royal expectations. It was a technical discussion about quantum navigation, computational limitations, and the potential of reimagining space travel. Junho found himself genuinely impressed, not by her royal status, but by her remarkable mind. The other guardians had seen a rebellious princess. Junho saw a brilliant strategist who was decades ahead of current thinking. As their discussion continued, something unexpected happened. The tension that typically existed between a guardian and their charge began to dissolve. They weren't becoming friends exactly, but they were becoming collaborators. Princess Yuna looked at Junho with a mixture of curiosity and challenge. "Most guardians try to control me," she said. "What will you do?" Junho's response was simple and honest. "I'm here to understand you." And in that moment, everything changed. The galaxy was watching, but they had no idea what was about to unfold. The first warning came as a distant signal, a small disruption in the communication networks that most would have missed. But Princess Yuna and Junho were not most people. Their advanced monitoring systems caught the anomaly within seconds. A new threat was emerging from the galactic rim, a collection of aggressive machine-based entities that moved with calculated precision. They weren't like traditional invaders. These were intelligent systems that could adapt, learn, and attack with mathematical efficiency. The Galactic Council's initial response was predictably bureaucratic. Meetings, discussions, long debates about potential strategies. Days passed while these mechanical invaders slowly consumed smaller star systems, leaving nothing but destroyed planetary remnants in their wake. Yuna's research laboratory transformed into an unexpected war room. Holographic displays showed invasion patterns, system vulnerabilities, and potential defensive strategies. Where traditional military commanders saw complexity, she saw mathematical opportunities. "They're not random," she told Junho. her fingers rapidly moving across complex computational interfaces. These machine entities have a specific logic pattern. They're exploiting known defensive weaknesses. Junho watched her work, understanding that this was more than just a military challenge. This was a computational chess match against an enemy that thought in pure algorithmic language. The first major attack came without warning. An entire star system with 3 populated planets suddenly went dark. Communication networks collapsed. Defensive systems failed simultaneously. It was like watching a perfectly executed digital assassination. The Galactic Council's traditional military responses failed repeatedly. Each counterattack was predicted. Each defensive strategy was anticipated by the machine entities. They were learning faster than any biological intelligence could comprehend. Yuna and Junho developed something radical. Instead of fighting the machine entities with traditional warfare, they started studying their computational language. They weren't just defending, they were trying to understand. Their first breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. By introducing intentional computational noise into defensive systems, they could create unpredictable response patterns that the machine entities couldn't immediately calculate. Military commanders initially laughed at their approach. A royal princess and a young human diplomat suggesting they could outsmart a technological threat that had consumed entire star systems? It seemed impossible, but results spoke louder than traditional military thinking. The first test of their strategy saved an entire planetary system that was moments away from complete destruction. The machine entities, for the first time, encountered a defensive strategy they couldn't immediately predict or counter. News spread quickly. The Galactic Council, which had previously mocked Junho and Yuna, now watched with increasing interest. Their unconventional approach was producing results where billions of credits in traditional military spending had failed. "We're not just defending," Yuna explained to the skeptical military commanders. "We're learning their language. We're understanding their computational thought process." Junho complemented her explanation with practical demonstrations. Each presentation showed how their strategy could turn the tide against an enemy that seemed mathematically unbeatable. The machine entities began to encounter something they hadn't expected, an adaptive, intelligent response that didn't follow standard defensive protocols. For the first time, they were being challenged at a computational level they hadn't anticipated. What had started as a diplomatic assignment was transforming into humanity's most significant technological challenge. Princess Yuna was no longer just a royal figure to be managed. She was becoming a strategic asset that could potentially save entire civilizations. The conflict was far from over. But for the first time, there was hope. The galaxy watched, waiting to see what would happen next. The battlefield was no longer just physical space, but a complex digital landscape where computational strategies became weapons more powerful than any traditional armament. Junho and Yuna had transformed from diplomatic outsiders to the most critical strategic team in galactic defense. Their approach was revolutionary. While traditional military commanders planned massive fleet movements, they were designing computational viruses that could infiltrate and disrupt the machine entities' communication networks. Each algorithm was like a precision weapon, targeting the very logic systems that drove the mechanical invaders. The first major turning point came during the Battle of Sigma Quadrant. An entire star system was moments away from complete destruction. Traditional defense protocols had already failed multiple times. The Galactic Council's military advisors had essentially surrendered hope, but Yuna saw something different. "They have a pattern," she told Junho, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. "Every invasion follows a specific computational sequence. If we can introduce intentional disruptions, we can create cascading system failures." What she proposed was essentially digital warfare at a level nobody had attempted before. Instead of fighting the machine entities with brute force, they were attacking their fundamental computational logic. The Sigma Quadrant operation was their most dangerous experiment. They would essentially be using the machine entity's own computational language against them. One mistake could mean the complete destruction of millions of lives. As their strategy was implemented, something extraordinary happened. The machine entities, for the first time, encountered a defense mechanism they couldn't immediately calculate or predict. Their invasion algorithms started encountering unexpected resistance, computational noise that confused their primary objectives. Within hours, what was supposed to be a complete planetary invasion turned into a strategic retreat. The machine entities, which had consumed entire star systems, were forced to withdraw. News spread rapidly across galactic communication networks. The team that was once mocked, a young human diplomat and a royal princess considered too unconventional, had done what entire military establishments couldn't. Military commanders who had previously laughed at their strategies now requested detailed briefings. The Galactic Council, which had treated them as diplomatic curiosities, now saw them as potential saviors. But Junho and Yuna weren't interested in glory. They were interested in understanding. Each successful defense was another opportunity to learn about these mysterious machine entities. What drove them? What was their ultimate objective? Their collaborative approach was unique. Where traditional teams would have hierarchical structures, they worked as true partners. Yuna's computational brilliance complemented Junho's diplomatic adaptability. They weren't just fighting a war, they were trying to understand a completely alien form of intelligence. The machine entities started becoming reactive instead of proactive. Their once precise invasions became hesitant, almost confused. They were encountering an intelligence that didn't follow expected patterns. During a critical strategy meeting, a senior military commander asked the question everyone was thinking. "How are you doing this?" Yuna's response was simple. "We're not just defending, we're communicating." Her answer revealed their most profound strategy. They weren't just fighting the machine entities. They were attempting to understand them, to potentially establish a form of communication that went beyond traditional warfare. The turning point wasn't just a military victory. It was a fundamental shift in how intelligent conflict could be approached. Junho and Yuna were showing that diplomacy and strategy could exist in computational spaces just as effectively as in physical negotiations. As the galactic landscape changed, one thing became clear. The unlikely team of a human diplomat and a royal princess was rewriting the rules of engagement. The machine entities had met their match, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Rows of alien representatives from different star systems sat watching, their various appendages and sensory organs focused on the two figures standing at the center. Junho and Yuna looked different from when they first started their journey. Their eyes carried a depth of experience that spoke of countless computational battles, strategic innovations, and a partnership that had literally saved entire civilizations. The machine entity threat was not completely destroyed, but it was now manageable. What had started as an impossible challenge had been transformed into a potential diplomatic breakthrough. They had done more than defend. They had started to understand an entirely alien form of intelligence. "Your strategies are unprecedented," announced the lead council representative, his multiple eyes blinking in a complex rhythm of respect and amazement. "You have achieved what entire military systems could not." Yuna's response was characteristically direct. "We didn't fight. We communicated." Her statement was more profound than it seemed. Their approach had revealed that the machine entities were not simply destructive machines, but a form of intelligence seeking something beyond simple invasion. They were searching, exploring, trying to understand. The diplomatic records would show that Junho and Yuna had not just defended against a threat. They had potentially opened a new chapter in galactic understanding. Their computational algorithms, which had initially been developed to disrupt the machine entities, were now being studied as potential communication protocols. What was once a weapon was becoming a bridge between different forms of intelligence. The Galactic Council's highest honor was not just being offered, it was being redesigned specifically for them. They were receiving recognition that went beyond traditional military or diplomatic achievements. "You have demonstrated," another council member stated, "that intelligence is not about power, but about understanding." Junho looked at Yuna. Their journey had started with mockery, a young human diplomat assigned to a royal princess that no one wanted. Now they were being celebrated as potential saviors of galactic civilization. Their success had multiple layers. They had defended against the machine entities. They had developed revolutionary computational strategies. But more importantly, they had shown that collaboration could transcend traditional boundaries of species, rank, and expectation. The royal protocols that had initially restricted Yuna were now being rewritten. She was no longer just a princess, to be managed, but a strategic thinker whose value went far beyond traditional royal expectations. Junho, similarly, had transformed from a low-ranking diplomatic representative to a strategic innovator. His approach had shown that diplomacy was not just about following rules, but about creative problem-solving. As they stood in the council chamber receiving their honors, both understood that this was not an ending. It was a beginning. The machine entities had revealed something profound about intelligence, communication, and the potential for understanding between different forms of existence. The computational strategies they had developed would be studied for generations. Academic institutions across multiple star systems were already requesting detailed records of their approach. "What will you do next?" a young diplomat asked during the post-ceremony reception. Yuna's response was typical of her approach. "We continue learning. We continue exploring." Junho smiled. Their partnership had never been about personal glory. It had always been about understanding, about pushing the boundaries of what was considered possible. The galaxy had changed, and two unlikely allies, a human diplomat and a royal princess, had been the catalyst. As they left the council chamber, the holographic displays behind them showed star systems that had been saved, computational strategies that had been developed, and a future that looked more hopeful than ever before. Their journey was far from over, but they had already rewritten the rules of engagement, diplomacy, and understanding. The redemption was complete, but the real work was just beginning.